All right, welcome back to Build Your Legacy Insurance Edition podcast. What's going on, Travis?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got plenty of rain lately, haven't we?
I tell you, I think there's a little more on the way. Again, I'm not going to complain. You know, it's saving on the water bill a little bit.
That's right. There's been some storms out there. I feel like we're getting to that part of the year where there's storms and hopefully not really big storms.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, keep the big ones away, but I made a comment earlier today. It feels like summertime. You're starting to get that little mugginess in the air, the thunder clouds overhead. You know, we're into summer, man.
Yeah, we are. Hey, that's good. Humidity's here for sure.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hey, look, I was listening to your podcast with Lucas at Lift Local, and he made a comment about people not being ready.
Yeah.
And it kind of resonated with me of people aren't ready for M&A. We did a whole episode on questions you should ask yourself and other people.
Yeah.
And we didn't really think about, hey, are people ready to do this?
It's a great point, and everybody is, I want to buy. I think you made the comment, it's like buying a house. You don't just go shopping. You try to get an idea of what you can understand beforehand or what you can buy beforehand.
And I think that's kind of my biggest thing, like I was telling you before, was how do people get prepared?
First of all, have a plan. And part of that plan is your funds.
First and foremost.
Yeah. What can you afford? What do you have readily available?
Also, and this may be one hopefully a banker will jump on with us at some point.
Yeah.
But I think your comment about the mortgage and the house buying is you hopefully have some funds available.
Yes.
Maybe you have a lot of funds available. But in most cases, you're going to need some sort of financing.
Yes.
What I think people don't need to rely on is the selling agency financing that for you. If that works out, great. Again, this is kind of maybe the next topic on creativity, but I believe you need to go into it, to your comment, like buying a house.
Yes.
Of you need to have the cash, whether it's down payments. What do you need for down payment? What bank relationship do you have? What do they need? Are you already working with them so they know and it could be a little bit quicker?
I think that's the key right there. And listen, we're in a relationship business, and I think you need to establish a relationship, to your point, with a banker or some financial firm that can help you with this and help beginning to prepare you for it, right? So that those funds can be readily available, because the last thing you want to do is get down, have a conversation with Agent X and be ready to pull the trigger and have that process delayed and miss out on the opportunity.
Or you can't afford it.
Right.
Yeah, and you just didn't know it. And you went after something a little bit too big, right? You tried to buy too big of a house, too big of an agency, and you really needed to be in this box here.
Yeah. And then, of course, naturally, you kind of get heartbroken over it.
Well, and then everybody's frustrated and time's wasted. So, and I'm not saying people should rush into buying an agency. I don't believe in that. But I do think you need to be prepared. So when the opportunity presents itself, you're not backpedaling and having to deal with too many things all at the same time.
Well, and let's look at the landscape of M&A here recently. It's private equity driven. Now, we're starting to see trends of that slowing down a little bit, but private equity, larger agencies, they're going to come in with a plan. And
that's right.
And part of that process that makes it so attractive is they've got a plan, they know what they can do, they fit that bill, and it's a faster process for that seller. Where if you're in that cycle, if you're without a plan, if you're slower, you're an unattractive prospect.
I think where it flips the table, and my next point that I had thought about is be creative.
Yes.
As a small business to medium business, and even some large businesses, if you're throwing out the big brokers and private equity and things of that nature, they probably have a little more structure behind what they do when they acquire somebody.
Yes.
They've done it 100 times,
Yes.
1,000 times, 1,000,000 times.
It's what they do.
They know what works for them.
Yeah.
These agencies that we're talking about may have never acquired somebody, maybe one time or two times if they're lucky. And I think what we're trying to say is be creative, because that seller doesn't know what they're doing either, because they've never sold.
Right. Yeah. It's a new game for them as well. And yes, I think that's a great point. The creativity, I think that kind of circles back to the relationship side of things.
Yeah, it does.
A lot of times, these acquisitions are made in small communities where there's relationships there. How do you handle that together? How do you be creative to make sure that seller's getting what they need, you're getting what you want out of it? Can that be a seller finance option? Of course.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe it's a slow exit, whatever it might be.
I think the creativity is where I would push the person listening right here to be as creative as you want to.
Yes.
It's employment, it's compensation, it's how the buyout is structured. It could go on and on and on.
And I think that's the key, right? Does the average agent that will listen to this have the structure and maybe some of the capital that the larger brokers or the private equity does? No, probably not. But that's of an advantage to you from a nimbleness perspective.
That's right. That's the positive.
Yes.
Is the relationship, to your point, is build a relationship, talk to the person selling.
Yes.
Y'all come together and figure out what creativeness can you come up with to make this deal as attractive as possible. And that way it's not going to a private equity person just calling saying, hey, write me the check and let's move on.
Well, I would say it's similar to our process when we partner with an agency, right? Hey, what works for you? What works for me? What's a win-win for us both, right? You can create that a lot easier with that communication, that relationship, and creativity of it.
Yeah. So hey, look, man, to kind of sum it up, it's be ready.
Yes.
Yeah, your comment with Lucas was not everybody's ready for marketing. Not everybody's ready to acquire.
Yes.
But if you think you're ready, be ready, get your finances in order. And then to your point, have a relationship and get creative with what works for both of you.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree.
Cool. Maybe we'll get a banker in here to maybe help us with that relationship on the
Take it a
financing
step
piece.
further, right? I hear you.
Good deal. All right, man.
I appreciate it.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. You can catch our Build Your Legacy Insurance Edition podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, or send us over a topic recommendation at podcast@siaofnc.com. If you're interested in learning more about what we do, visit us online at www.siaofnc.com. We hope you enjoyed our newest episode. See you next week.